Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of AI and Oats, which is my daily show where I answer some questions about AI and comment on some AI news articles. But if you're new, welcome. Who am I? Well, my name is Alistair. This is my YouTube channel where I teach Claude Code and Codex, kind of for knowledge work and business use cases. But I also run an AI consulting and training business called Ducks, and so if you do run or own a business and you'd be interested in implementing AI, feel free to get in touch through the link in the description. And then I also have a school community where I share my actual skills and systems for Claude Code and Codex, so if that interests you as well, the link for that is in the description too. But now that the preliminaries are out of the way, let's jump into the questions. Basically, the way this works is during the day every day I have a Codex automation that kind of goes and searches the web and various forums for interesting pieces of news relating to AI or questions about AI, and then I come and answer them or just talk about something ever so slightly related to them, but often somewhat different. Right, so let's jump into the first one. When AI runs the campaign, what is left for marketers? I do think that AI can handle a lot of marketing. Obviously, it depends what sort of marketing you're doing, but like generation of like UGC ads can be done with AI, and then you can also have, I'm pretty sure that you can have it like, I don't know, I assume there's an MCP, but if not, like you can set up, you can connect Claude Code or Codex to like run your meta ads and monitor how they're performing, and therefore set up a kind of self-improving loop as well that will change what it's producing in terms of that. But I do think that there is still scope for kind of creativity. I don't think it's such that AI can't be creative. I think it can be creative in many ways. However, part of the issue is I think it's hard to capture some elements of kind of human visceral reaction, which is often very important in marketing, I think. I mean, I'm not an expert marketer, but I do find marketing an interesting discipline. And I think that there are just some responses that humans have deep within them, I suppose, which are perhaps on some level quite animalistic, that either urge them or repulse them. And I think kind of marshalling those primordial, I don't know the difference to be honest, elements of human reaction is in some ways at the core of marketing. And I feel like AI doesn't always, at least the kind of general models don't necessarily have a true grasp of that, because I suppose they aren't human, whether they're conscious or whatever is another question, but they aren't human, and therefore they don't experience those same kind of visceral human emotions, I think. I mean, I don't know if we can necessarily prove what they feel, if they feel anything. And therefore what you get sometimes with AI is a kind of very factual surface level thing, whereas you don't get any of these, I don't know, it feels like, it's not like AI can detect cringe almost. If something seems cringy, I don't think AI can pick up on that or something along those lines. The other thing I think you get less, but probably you could train it, and that's the thing, I think you probably could actually overcome some of these models if you do a little bit of kind of fine-tune. I said models, I meant issues. You could probably overcome some of these issues if you do a little bit of fine-tuning or post-training on like an open weight model to make it specifically for marketing, or if you just come up with like a really kind of good bank of references that steer it in a sort of different mode of thinking. Because I'm a big fan of Rory Sutherland, and so I think a lot of what he would emphasize is the counterintuitive elements to successful marketing. And since AI is trained on so much data, I think it's less likely to tend towards things which are counterintuitive, because that is not what kind of the majority of the data it will have had will suggest. However, if you therefore steer it towards specifically thinking in a counterintuitive, strange manner, which you could do with the skill or a skill combined with a bank of examples and some reference material, at that point I think it can become more creative. And then I guess what's left for the marketers is to be the human, the human in that loop, which is there for testing those visceral human reactions I was mentioning earlier, because that still is going to require a human. And yeah, so I do think, there probably is an argument that certainly for something like, I don't know, like a D2C e-commerce product, you probably, if you're willing to throw enough like money and tokens and stuff at it, and at like running meta ads, you probably could just generate a bunch of AI UGC content using Higgs field or something, with slight variations, like who is the like person, or like who is the person being shown, what do they say about the product, how do they show the product, what's the background. You could make all of these sorts of variations with like Higgs field, I guess, kind of like you would in the past with real people. Then you could just kind of keep looping that over it, and it can monitor the outputs and be a self-improving loop that varies those things slightly. But I think if you're trying to think like on a more I don't know, kind of complex marketing campaign, that's when you want the humans to come in and test those sort of visceral human reactions if something seems counterintuitive but might work. That would be my take. I'm not an expert marketer. The flip side of that is there is absolutely loads of kind of like go-to-market and stuff and marketing things. I suppose those are technically different, but still loads of marketing automations and stuff that you can set up using Claude Code and stuff if you have the right MCPs connected. Why we don't have I assume that means why don't we have automatic reasoning level with Codex? That's a good question. That would be a nice feature to have. I don't think that there was adaptive effort at one point in Claude Code, I think, but I don't know if it's still there. I don't feel like it is. I think it's good. Some people do have a preference for different things. Like I know some people who like to use GPT 5.6 and Fable 5 as well, or maybe Opus 5 as well for that matter, like on Medium for the vast majority of things, because they feel that it overthinks too much. So I guess perhaps part of the reason is different people have different preferences. A bit like people have different preferences for different models. Going deeper than that, I feel like people have different preferences for different thinking levels. Like, I still don't know necessarily what my favourite thinking level is. I quite like Fable 5 on medium, but I sometimes do use it on extra high as well. I rarely use it on high, and rarely on max or ultra. GPT 5.6, I like it on medium as well for a lot of tasks. I feel like I also do fairly frequently bump it up to high or even extra high. Like medium GPT 5.6 is quite as powerful as medium Fable 5, but perhaps I'm wrong there. The post here seems to suggest that it goes into even more detail, suggesting beyond just a reasoning level that it's actually would like an automatic choice between Sol, Luna and Terra, which is another interesting idea. I do think it would be useful. Why they haven't done it, I don't know exactly. I guess I don't know if it would slow it down, or I don't know if it would actually cost more tokens if you're constantly switching reasoning levels and that sort of thing, because I know that like prompt caching or caching happens again, like it redoes it when you switch models halfway through a conversation or switch effort levels, I believe. So I don't necessarily know exactly what the reason is, but yeah. Over 1 million people have clicked LinkedIn's AI slop button. I'm going to be honest, I don't really like LinkedIn anymore. I used to post on LinkedIn. I still do post a bit on LinkedIn, but a lot of it is just like content from this YouTube video or these YouTube videos that gets repurposed by my content waterfall. So I guess I'm somewhat guilty of contributing to the AI slop in LinkedIn, although I like to think that I put the effort in to make mine a little bit more valuable than slop. I at least run it through my kind of voice guides and everything to ensure that it seems like it's not been written by AI. And I like to think that maybe hopefully it gives some interesting and useful information, but perhaps I'm too kind to myself there. To be honest, I don't really like LinkedIn at all. I don't know. Apart from, I think LinkedIn is useful as like a marketing tool, because you can create some good automations and stuff if you like. Well, you're not really meant to use AI to scrape LinkedIn, but people do. And you can have Appify, like scrape kind of people who engage with posts in a certain niche, and then hook that up to like Apollo MCP and get their emails, and then that sort of stuff, add them to an Instantly campaign. Or you can automate like cold outreach on LinkedIn using Claude Code or something like that. So it's not a totally useless thing, but in terms of the actual content, the other thing I do like, the thing that annoys me about LinkedIn is those people share like AI tips on LinkedIn. I suppose partially me included here, but I like to think that mine aren't out of date, and that's the issue. Is everything in LinkedIn is so out of date in terms of AI. It's honestly painful to read in many ways. If you want actual up-to-date AI stuff that's interesting, just stick to YouTube and X. That's where it all is, pretty much. So yeah, and the comments as well in LinkedIn are all AI. It is pretty much just like, it's a bit like Maltbook at this point, just agent-to-agent communication. You know, everyone was so excited about Maltbook being an agent social media platform, but really that had kind of happened with LinkedIn already. Well, I'm being a little facetious there, but, you know, it's probably sadly not too far from the truth. And I wonder how many other elements of our life have already reached that point, you know. If you get AI to write out an email that then gets sent to someone else who then summarizes it with AI, is email now just becoming agent-to-agent communication? Probably not entirely, but probably to some extent. Anyway. Perhaps that will just, you know, streamline things. Maybe people will decide that, you know, so many... They'll realise that excessive emails are irrelevant if they're all just going to be AI summarising what AI has written, and that LinkedIn, if it's just going to be AI replying to what AI has written, is also irrelevant. Maybe we'll actually reclaim some time and stop having to, you know, spend time on LinkedIn and that sort of stuff. Who knows? Can AI describe your company accurately? The new brand test. Okay, that's an interesting take. I think, in some ways, I suppose what this... I guess this is important in two ways. I think it's internally important that AI can, based on like your own contextual environment and I guess like your business brain, if you want to call it that, which is really just a well-organized folder structure that you set up. Within that structure, can it tell you accurately what you do? Or who you are for, what you make possible, and what you will never become, according to these questions. Because, and just generally, like a good an aligned conceptualization of your business as how you see it. Because that means that it tells you your context environment is like sufficiently rich and populated well, and not kind of, I don't know, poisoned in any way. Poisoned is a little bit of a sensational term in that regard, but what I mean is like it doesn't have any kind of latent, distracting or confusing or inaccurate information that is then causing AI to distract itself. Because I get that, like every now and then. Sometimes AI will slightly misunderstand a call transcript or the implications of it, and will think like one person is the same person if they have similar names, or that one person said something when actually it was like the other person on the call who said something, and then that stuff can get misattributed or misattributed, and it is necessary therefore like to clean things up in that regard. And that's part of the reason like I have a kind of nightly automation that cleans up my filing system and adds things to it or checks stuff, but fundamentally it then also always surfaces whatever is added and that sort of thing, so I can spot anything that seems misleading. And I guess if you ask these questions you get something back incorrectly, or if you just notice that something is being picked up that's not actually true, like maybe an outdated offer that you have or something along those lines, I usually always like to stop kind of the task I'm doing immediately and say like, pinpoint whatever is confusing you, like whatever you're in your memory or your files is confusing you, and go fix it. Because really keeping that context environment sufficient and rich and accurate is important, because AI needs to have understanding of all these things, who you are, what you do, if it is to help you effectively with your goals. And especially as you start to give it more autonomy and that sort of stuff, if it's misunderstood who you are or what your company is, then that can lead to some issues. Equally, I think from the flip side of this, if you're talking about can AI kind of describe you accurately, your company accurately, without having access to your internal documents, but let's say you're kind of posing as just a member of the public, in that case, that's a question of like how good your AEO is. And I certainly think that AEO is becoming very important, just a bit like the way that there was a kind of thing with software where like everyone started using Supabase for vibe coding stuff and just making apps, because I think because its documentation was so accessible to agents that if you ever ask Claude Code or Codex to suggest a database thing, it was going to say Supabase. Same with visceral, kind of for hosting and that sort of stuff. And so I think that is the next progress, and this isn't really anything innovative. It's saying like the next stage of, like, don't know whether you want to call it marketing or just brand, as this says, or just company awareness or presence, is going to be AEO, and making sure that you are the one that comes up when an AI is asked, oh, if I need someone to do this for me, whom should I use? So yeah, I do think that this shows you two elements, which is, one is the importance of like a good folder structure with correct context and information, which is really going to help your AI move you towards your goals effectively. And the flip side of that is a good like AEO presence in terms of getting customers and getting business as people move more and more to having their AI agents suggest everything for them. So that will wrap it up for today. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please feel free to subscribe. And just to mention again, if you own or run a business and you're interested in using AI to grow your revenue, feel free to get in touch through the link in the description. And equally, if you would like me to help you, if you're a knowledge worker of any sort and you'd just like me to help you build out your own AI operating system in Claude Code or Codex, feel free to get in touch as well. Or if you're interested in the school community, the link for that is in the description too. But that'll be it for now. So thanks very much for watching, everyone, and I will see you tomorrow. Goodbye.